So we are now in the thick of primary gun season across the Midwest and the northern part of the country. Other areas are starting to come into their gun seasons. So I thought it'd be a good time to talk about deer management of your property and how to go about that throughout the gun season so you can still hit your goals. Now, this isn't a video about me sitting here telling you what you can shoot, what you can't shoot, and so forth. It's not up to me. The reality is whatever makes you happy and whatever you want with your property, whatever you want to harvest, that's for you. But I do think it's good to think about what goals do you have for your property. If you had goals all year long and all of a sudden you get to gun season and you get the excitement of gun season, which we've all been there, right? I've had some of my greatest memories with gun season, especially when I was younger, hunting in large groups with friends, family, and we did push and we did block deer, and it put a lot of pressure on those deer, but we had a great time and there was a lot of deer where we were at. So I'm not here to tell you what to do, what not to do, but definitely some things to think about on what things will impact your land going forward in the future and what do you want that land to turn into. So let's jump right into it. So first thing, make sure you think about what are your property goals. So is your goals to have a larger deer herd, increase your deer herd? Are you not seeing at least 2 deer every time you go out hunting on your property? Well, if that's the case, then you might have some things to think about. Is your goals to shoot mature bucks? Have mature bucks on your property during daylight hours. Have them bedding on your property. Or are you seeing a crazy amount of deer every time you go out and your goal is to thin the herd and get a bunch of harvests and have a good time with a larger group hunting on your property, and that pressure maybe don't matter as much. So definitely lay out what your goals are in that aspects. Do you want those mature bucks? Do you need to increase the herd? Is your herd too large? Other than that, what I would go through is definitely think through what you've seen so far this season. What deer movement have you seen over this past fall, over this rut? Because you're going to see most of that deer movement during rut. And if you've been out in the woods or you have trail cams and you're not seeing multiple deer in one night, especially when on those cold fronts after they come through, if you're not seeing multiple deer, then your herd might not be in that great of shape. If you haven't seen mature bucks on your cameras, if you haven't seen mature bucks in person or from the stand, you might have to think about some decisions that you're making so you can actually do that in the future if that's one of your goals. And of course, are you seeing the quantity of deer during the fall that you want to see, or the mature bucks during the fall? It don't matter if you're seeing all those deer in there during the summer. Like, you can't shoot them during the summer. Definitely think about that. If your goal is to shoot mature bucks, which mine is, and I do like to get some harvest along the way, which that just comes with being in the woods. I passed up 6 doe already this year, and I harvested 2 deer outside my big mainframe 8. Those opportunities will come along with managing the property and get into a condition where you have big bucks. So if your goal is to have big bucks and get some harvest along the way, that's easily attainable. But definitely focus in, are you seeing those deer? Are you seeing them during daylight hours? Can't shoot them at night. So definitely be thinking about those types of things. So after you think about all that information, right, you think about what your goals are, you think about what you've been seeing, now it's time to make some decisions. So you're already in the thick of gun season, or it's approaching here quickly. And you're going to have to think about how you want to hunt your property and how it's going to impact that property going forward. So if you have plenty of deer on your property, to where you can allow a large group to come in, put pressure on that ground, harvest a lot of deer, and it's going to still retain decent enough populations and still be good for next year, well, that's great, right? And as long as that falls in line with your goals. If your primary goal is to be able to gun hunt, and it doesn't really matter to you whether you shoot mature bucks or not, sure, have that group come in and you can push through it. If you have a large parcel of land and that larger group coming in is not going to be that much pressure or that big of an impact because of how much land that you have, then also it's not bad. Or maybe you decide that, hey, we're not going to push the property. We're going to sit it. We're going to use scent control, and you're going to go that direction with it. So you got multiple options to still be able to have a good time in the woods. Large pieces of property definitely give you more flexibility. If you have a smaller piece of property, maybe you can still gun hunt that. Maybe you can still bring a few more people in or multiple people in, but maybe you just sit it, and maybe you put stricter rules. Maybe there's specific deer you say that you're allowed to shoot. Maybe you're not shooting does. Maybe one of those people you bring in is a brand new hunter and haven't harvested their first deer. Maybe you just give them the green light and tell them to shoot whatever he wants, and you have rules for everybody else. But the biggest thing is you need to make sure everybody's in line with what your long-term goals are if you want to hit and achieve those goals. One thing to think about when you're creating these rules, I hate to say rules, right? No one likes the rules, but when you're creating these goals and how you're thinking about achieving the goals is, and let's say you're trying to grow the deer herd and have a healthier deer herd. Every doe you shoot this year is potentially 2 or 3 deer that will be there next year. And then 2 years down the road, it's potentially 6 to 9 deer that you might not see next year, especially if you have the conditions where deer are able to survive. Up in the far north part of the country, the survival rate might not be as good, especially if you don't have food plot and good food sources for the deer to survive. But down in the Midwest area, a lot of those deer will survive. So those choices you make now can greatly impact the deer herd in a very short period of time. So passing on some deer, especially if you're not seeing those deer numbers, within 2 years can drastically improve if you and the people in your area are controlling what they shoot. So definitely think about those types of things. Think about the pressure you put on the property. Mature bucks will not hang out in a highly pressured area. They will leave and find unpressured area, even if there isn't great food sources. They cannot handle that pressure very well. Doe, young bucks, they're repetitive. They'll come back. So yeah, you maybe see them, but if your goal is to shoot a mature buck, you definitely have to control the pressure you put on that property. Otherwise, you will not see them during the daylight hours. Definitely after a rut, because they start thinking with the right head again. So definitely think about your goals, think about what you've seen, and then think about what you need to do throughout this late season to help you hit your goals. Remember, the choices you make now will impact your many hunts to come throughout many years and make or break some of the successes you might have. Keep that in mind. Hopefully, you guys found this information helpful. If you did, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And hit that bell notification so you don't miss any whitetail hunting tactics we have coming out with in the future. We greatly appreciate your support of Hooked2Hunt. And other than that, I just hope you guys have a great late season. Make sure you knock them dead.